Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode with your girl Audrey Codner from ACG Math Tutoring. Blessings to everyone. Hopefully you guys are having a great night, great afternoon, or a great morning. So, what we're going to be working on today is called completing the square. So, this was kind of mentioned a little bit yesterday during our live at 1 p.m. But I also had a couple students that are getting ready for their finals. And one of the things that they were doing was called the definition of a circle. Yes, that does exist. So with the definition of the circle, it comes that you're going to have to use a process called completing the square in order for us to figure this lovely thing out. So if we recall, when we want to complete the square, this is the only time that a quadratic equation does not equal 0. It equals whatever your original constant is. All right, so let me zoom in for you for what the steps are so you can actually take a quick little snap and be able to have this in your warehouse. All right, so let's take a look. So first, we want to set our equation up to equal whatever your constant, your C value of your equation. Then we're going to be using this equation, and this should look somewhat familiar. Okay, we're trying to find the new value to complete the square. So in order for us to do that, we take whatever our B is, divide it by 2, and square it. So now, whatever we get for an answer from this, we're going to add on both sides. All right? So again, I'm going to show you this. But if you want to know the steps, it's right here. Take a quick little pick. Now, after we do that, on the left-hand side, I'm going to show you how to do the binomial. And I'm also going to show you how to get that a lot quicker than most. You know me, shortcuts. Then we're going to solve by taking the square root of both sides and then solve for x. Okay, so when we complete the square, we're going to break it. I'll tell you where we could stop and where we have to completely finish. All right, so here's another little tip right here. If you get an I, aka a negative underneath the radical, we got to pull that out. Remember, I equals the square root of -1. Now, this is mostly like Algebra 2. Now, I know for sure there's going to be some bits and pieces of this process that is going to be beneficial for GED, for ACCUPLACER, for ASVAB, all of that, okay? But what now? We're going to try to get some people ready for their finals, as well as, let me see if I can do like a 2-for-1 type of thing, okay? So let's get started. Sitting here hammering on. So let me go all the way through with one example, and then I'll, say hi to everybody. See how everything's going. All right. Hello, and how are you? Okay. All right, Bella. Good. So first example we have is x squared plus 10x minus 8 equals -1. And you're like, all right, Audrey, it's already not equal to 0, so that means I should try to factor this. No, it's not completely in that form. We have this -8. So this -8, that needs to come over to the same side as the -1 in order for us to say it is in that setup for completing the square. So what I do is I got to make sure all my constants are on one side. So by doing the opposite of adding 8, the 8s are going to cancel out. So now I have my x squared plus 10x. I'm going to provide a little space for this because I need something to put here to complete the square. Equals -1 plus 8 which gives me 7. Okay, so now I am preparing for my next bit. The next bit is saying that we're going to be using this equation, C equals B over 2A squared. And you're probably like, okay, Audrey, what's the B and what's the A? Well, if this is in standard form, your A is always in front of your x squared. Your B is always in front of the x. And the C is what we subtracted on the other side. So in order for me to do this formula, I need my A, which is a 1. I need my B, which is in front of the x, which is 10. So here I go. I got my C is going to equal my B, which is 10, over 2 times my A, which is 1. And we're going to square it. So when we come in, don't get too overwhelmed. I'm going to go through it all at one time. And then we're going to pick it piece by piece. So now we have 10 over 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is going to give me 2. 10 divided by 2, well, that gives me 5. So now I want to know what 5 squared is. It's not 10. Don't do that to me, okay? 5 squared means 5 times 5. This small little 2, that's your exponent. That's telling you that you are multiplying that base to itself twice. So for my C value is going to be 25. We're going to use this 25 to complete our square, hence the x squared. So since it's a positive 25, right, we're going to add 25 to this side to complete the square. It's almost like when a movie says the title of the movie inside the movie, right? But here's that next part. Whatever we add to complete the square here, we need to add to the other side. So it's almost like saying whatever you do on one side, you do to the other. So now, this is when, just for a moment, I'm going to ignore this right-hand side. Now on the left-hand side, we have x squared plus 10x plus 25. Now we can factor this. So since my highest degree is a 2 and my leading coefficient is a 1, I'm going right into splitting my x's. So now I need to think, what 2 numbers multiply 25 and the same 2 numbers add together to give me 10? So we have plus 5 plus 5. Since we have exactly the same, exactly the same factors here, we can multiply it together to give us this. X plus 5 squared. Because they're both exactly the same and we're both multiplying both of them. So that's why we got x plus 5 squared. That's the left-hand side. Now, on the right-hand side, we have our equals. And we have our 7 plus 5. 7 plus 25. Getting kind of silly around here. So 25 plus 7, that gives me my 32. So I'm just going to bring down that whole number of 32. Okay. So what we did was completing the square. There is a shortcut with this part here. Instead of doing, so some people like to say, all right, show me all the steps. Okay, have fun, show all the steps. But if you're taking like a state assessment, okay, remember, they're not going to take your answer keys or your scrap paper and they're going to score from that. They're scoring from what you bubble in. So what you could do is, it all starts once you did your C. After you divide, you always look in between before you square. Because this answer of 5, or whatever you did to divide, will always be your answer right there. Okay? Whatever you get, let me unzoom a little bit. Whatever you get right here will always be the solution right here. But if you want to factor out completely, go right ahead. Okay? All right. So now, I'm going to look at what we got, because there is more to this. But I just want to pause for a second to see how you guys are doing. I love that comment. Too real for you to see? Trust me. You're right, because if I did, my butt wouldn't be here. If I could figure out the Powerball and Mega. You know, shoot, would I be here? Heck no. All right, let me scroll back to the beginning. Okay, God is good. Hello, how are you? Daniel, nice, thank you. Okay, write the fraction twice. Okay, we got a whole bunch of 25s, which was great. Guys following along. Okay, Austin, thank you. Good. Daniel, good. Look, good. All right, one of them squared, yes. All right, we got the Powerball thing. Okay, is this Algebra 2? Yes, it is. This is definitely Algebra 2. Okay, so yep, we're going to just add 7 and 25 together. Good job. All right. All right, so we're all up to snuff. So, going along here, we already set our equations equal to the C. That's where the 7 came from, because we had to add the 8 on both sides. We found our new C by doing B divided by 2 squared. That's where the 25 came from. And we added the new C on both sides, which we did. That's why the 25 there and the 25's there. Then we did the left-hand side into a binomial, which we did, which was that x plus 5 squared, okay, equals the 32. So now we're going to solve, okay? So this is basically factored, but we're going to solve. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take the square root of both sides and we're going to solve for x. So let's get started. As soon as I expand up. All right. So now, when we take the square root, remember, the inverse of a square is a square root. So what happens is that square and that square roots, they're inverses. They cancel each other out. So now what's left is going to be my x plus 5 equals, we got the square root of 32. But something needs to come into play. Okay? Yep, I'm not even done the first problem. Beep, 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 I'm telling you. This is still one problem. Right, thank you, Austin. Okay, anytime we start off with a square and then we end up getting a square root, we have to take the positive as well as the negative version of this square root. That's why they call it a plus minus. Okay? The reason why, if I may, in the very beginning, the highest exponent tells us how many solutions we should have. Okay? It doesn't tell us what type of solutions they are, but we're expected to see 2 solutions. Okay? So in this case, we need that positive and that negative to represent our two solutions. Now, square root of 32. Let's see if we can break that down. So I go to my handy dandy notebook, and I'm looking up at 32. So with 32, my factors are 1 and 32, 2 and 16, and 4 and 8. 2 and 16 is that perfect prime combination, because I know the square root of 16 will give me a whole number, but the square root of 2, that's prime. So I can't break that down any further. So when I come back here, I'm going to put it off to the side over here. I got the square root of 32. I know that the square root of 16 times the square root of 2 will give me my square root of 32. But the square root of 16, that's a perfect square root, which gives me 4, because 4 times 4, or 4 squared, gives me the 16. But that square root of 2, that's prime. So I can't break it down, so I bring it down. So I can replace the square root of 32 to plus minus 4 square root of 2. And I'm going to bring, as soon as I find my pen, the rest down. And we are one step away from completion. So now we want to get x by ourselves. That's the ultimate goal. So if we want to get x by ourselves, that means we need to subtract 5 on both sides of the equal sign. So that cancels and that cancels. Normally it will give me a 0, but we still have this x. So there's something on that side of the equal sign, so we don't need the placeholder. But this is where it gets everybody. They're like, oh, -5 and 4. That means my answer is 1 square root of 2. No. It's actually going to be -5 plus or minus 4 the square root of 2. Okay? Right now, this plus or minus is represented with the 4 square root of 2. So your answers, if I may split it up into 2, one of them is going to be -5 plus 4 the square root of 2. And the other answer is going to be -5 minus 4 the square root of 2. Those are your two solutions. So they're telling me that these two, they're not crossing the x-axis. Okay? They're not crossing the x-axis. It's going to be dangled above. Can I help with linear algebra? That is not my jam. You failed pre-algebra? Oh, no, you didn't. Okay. But I can dribble a basketball like no other. Hey, so can I. Or I used to. I haven't played in a minute. But hey, it's just like riding a bike. Okay? Nikki, don't feel stupid. Stop it. Okay? So we got plus minus, the square root. Okay? So yes, you could use 8 and 4, but then you could still break down that 8. Okay, since the square root isn't even, would it just be left in the form? Yes. Yep. So you can leave it just right into that form. Some people might ask you to actually put in the calculator, if that's possible, to put in the calculator and have the decimal representation. But this is perfectly fine to leave it as such. It also depends on what is given. If this is going to be what we used to call the ECRs and BCRs, the part where you have to actually write out, you can leave it like this if you want to. That's perfectly fine. Okay? Because that is the full representation of your two answers. All right. Let me see. I'm trying to catch up on. Thank you so much for the gifts, guys. Was so easy though. Okay, good. I'm glad that that was easy. I was lost on this section. My class don't know what's going on, but didn't see the beginning. And that's all right, Nurse Green, because guess what? I'm about to do another one. I have like I wrote out 6 altogether, but I'm not sure if we're getting through all 6. But I got plenty of examples. Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Marcos. Appreciate it. All the good stuff. Hello, Danny. Mr. B. Where the x-intercepts. That's what they want to be. Didn't understand the plus and minus on the right side. So since we're doing French, what is that? French Island. Since we are basically looking for our solutions, okay? So we have like 2 solutions since my highest degree. So anytime you're coming from a square and then you're translating into a root, you always put the plus minus. But if you start with the root and you're going to a square, you don't put the plus minus. I know all these rules. I know so much. All right. Okay. What else do I want in life? Peace. I would love to be able to go out in the street and not be fearful that I'm going to get jumped or shot or killed or murdered just because I am a threat to someone else. That would be kind of nice. Just speaking my truth. That would be kind of nice. All right, so let's do another one. I'm going to see if I can put this on here. And here we go. All right, so let's try this one. So we have x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 0. Let's see if I can put this up just a little bit. All right. So I know a lot of people right off the jump. You're going to be like, oh, well, let me see. 2 numbers multiplied together to give me 7 will be 1 and 7. And add together will give me, exactly. It's always so tempting. Yeah, 1 and 7. If I add 1 and 7, that will give me 8. Oh, I can go the negative route. Okay, -1 and -7. That will give me a -8. Not a -6, right? So if we want to do this, we're going to do the completing of the square. Very first thing that we need to do is where's my pen? Here we go. We need to move our constant, which is our +7, to the other side of the equal sign. We need for it to equal 7, or in this case, our constant. So anytime you're doing completing the square, that's the only time you don't want your equation equal 0. So we have our -7 on both sides. So +7 and -7 will cancel out. And then what's left is my x squared minus 6x. And I'm going to put a little space because we're going to put something inside that space. Equals 0 minus 7 gives me a -7. Okay. Are we good with the first step? All right. Are we good with the first step? Daniel, what's wrong? Yeah, because since this is okay, I see what you're saying. This is a +7 up here. If it was a -7, yes, but that was a +7. Okay. And then plus -7, yeah, from 0. There you go. All right, so now we go to the next step. Okay, good. We go to the next step. So we need to find our A and our B. So if we come over here, my A is always the number in front of the x squared, and our B, sorry, I'm being attacked by a bug. You gotta love nature. Then I don't know. I was just like me in a light, and all of a sudden, I don't know, life. Okay, so our B is a -6. So we're going to find our C. Haha, we're going to find our C. Haha, ho 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 ho, to the funny farm. Okay, our B is -6, and then it's 2 times our A, which is 1. And we're going to square it. So -6 divided by 2 gives me a -3. That's going to help us out a little bit later. But we want to square it. So -3 squared gives me what? What we got? I know, and that's exactly what it was. It was a moth. Good. All right, so we got 9. Because -3 times -3, a negative times a negative gives me a positive. 3 times 3 gives me 9. So this answer of 9 is what we're going to add to both sides of the equal sign. That's one of the other parts that people miss when it comes to completing the square. All right. Okay, that was a great guess because it was right. So we have to factor this left-hand side. So that brings back my paper, which just all of a sudden disappeared. So we could factor into 2 parentheses, or, and I'll show it in 2 parentheses for everyone, because I know if I split this up into 2 parentheses, I would have x here, I will have 3 here, and both of them are going to be negative. Okay, because -3 times -3 gives me 9. -3 plus -3 gives me my -6. Since they're exactly the same, we just write it as one binomial. And we're going to square it, because it's the same parentheses twice. Or, remember right here, once you do that b over 2a, that is going to be exactly the same number that you're going to use down here. So now we have -7 plus 9. That gives me 2. Oh, my pen all of a sudden don't want to start. There we go. All right. Good. All right. So the C part is just basically you're taking your A, which is right here, and you're taking your B, which is right here, and you're plugging it into this formula. B divided by 2A. Forgot about the A. Okay? And since your A is 1, it's wherever your B is, which is -6, divided by 2. -6 divided by 2, that's where the -3 comes from. Okay? Forgot who said that. I think that was French Island. All right. So, now we're going into solving. We want to get rid of the square. What do I have to do to the square to get rid of it? What's the opposite of a square? Okay. Okay. All right, so you lost because the formula aspect. Okay. Yeah, so we have to square root. Good, square root. Charlie says square root. Daniel says square root. French Allen, square root. I am him. Are you? Square root. Randy, Daniel, good. Square root. Square root. Oh, my bad. Square root. There we go, Danny. All right, so once we take the square root, whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other side. So your square and the square roots will cancel each other out because they're inverses of each other. So now what's left is my x minus 3 equals, what is it going to equal? Please don't sound so weird. What is it going to equal? Yup, square root of 2, but what's missing? All right. Okay, cool. So plus or minus the square root of 2. Okay? Plus or minus the square root of 2. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the quadratic formula. I'm just doing completing the square because it was requested. So we got our plus or minus the root 2. So if we're solving for x, that means we need to add 3 to both sides. What's my final answer? What will be my final answer? Yes, Ivan. Good job. Plus minus. Thank you for the follow. Period. Dot. Poke. Okay. So negative 3 root 2, Jonah. 3 root 2. Okay, so that's one of them. You're supposed to have 2 solutions. Remember, my highest degree is 2, so I should have 2 solutions. Where are you getting 11 from, Agent? Square root of 11? So he's saying 3 and negative 3. Okay, so the 3 isn't the one that's doing the plus minus. Okay, the plus minus is attached to the square root of 2. This 3, that's a whole number. So it's going to be 3 plus minus the square root of 2. Okay, so when you add the 3 on both sides, right now this plus minus is attached to the square root of 2. So your 2 answers is really going to be 3 plus the square root of 2. And the other one is going to be 3 minus the square root of 2. Okay, so we got a pair of irrational numbers. Okay, easy one. You're too old for this. This was easy one. I'm too old for this. All right, boom, boom. All right. Let's try another one. All right. So again, for those that didn't write it down, make sure you write this part down. This is key. Okay? There's a lot of stuff that's key, but this is key. Okay? The formula to find your new C. Once we got it equal to your original constant, we're going to need this formula. And this formula has been used several times. Okay? It's been used in standard form when you are trying to get it from standard form to vertex form in linear equations. The only difference is the b was negative. This is kind of, and I do say kind of, part of the quadratic formula. You know that beginning part where it says negative b plus or minus? Instead of a negative b, it's just a b because you're squaring it. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, it's still going to end up being positive. So that's why they just decided to just drop the negative b and just make it regular b. Because you're going to cancel out your, well, not really cancel out. You're going to multiply your negatives. Okay. This is not for the ASVAB because this is mostly Algebra 2. I'm going to be truthful with that. However, the solving of the square root, that you might get 1 or 2 questions, especially later on. Because remember, when they do the ASVAB, they start nice and slow and they progress. Okay, so if you notice that some of the questions are going to get harder, you're going to see like from here down, you're going to see this in those later questions. Okay, the beginning portion of this is Algebra 2. But from here down, that's your advanced with your GED. But this is definitely going to be in those advanced part of ASVAB. Okay. Oh, it's a test that people take to get into the military. I wish I knew what the exact letters meant. I do not, and I'll be truthful with that. But I know how to get people to pass it. I did 3 of them last week. So I must be doing something right. All right. So let's try this again. We're going to do it step by step. Thank you, Pod, for reminding people. We're just going to do it. We're going to do a couple more. Why not? What else are we doing? It's a Saturday night. We're sitting here doing a little math. Just hanging out, just chilling. Okay. So let's do one more with my A being 1. So, okay, let's go with this one. This one looks pretty decent. So let's do our x squared plus 16x minus 14, equals negative 5. Okay. So make it a little bit manageable. All right. So why does it say it gets harder? What do a hard question like that would look like? A harder question for the ASVAB will be anything dealing with linear expressions and factoring. So like finding slope, the equation of the line, also volume of a cylinder, any of the volumes of 3-dimensional figures, those are considered the harder questions. Factoring, breaking down radicals, like where is it? Like this part right here, okay? That might be considered like a 3 to 4 part questions. It'll be part of something. But it's literally like if I do this problem down to get to this answer, that will be considered a hard question. Okay, anything that's going to be dealing with like adding fractions, adding decimals, making change, lowering percentage, probability, word problems, changing things by using, proportions. Those are going to be your big questions. Now, here's my next thing. If you go to my YouTube channel, okay, all of my lives are on there. So I have a section that I did the top 4, like a 4-star problem, okay, like the high-end problems. So you can check out Audrey Codner ACG Math Tutoring on YouTube, and you can take a look at the videos there, because some of those things I use, you can use for the ASVAB, you can use for GED. Go ahead, take a quick snapshot. 3, 2, 1. Good. All right. GED, ASVAB, ACCUPLACER, all of that. All right. Back to the mix. So, first things first. A lot of you guys say, add the 14. Good job. Okay, we need to get rid of this C. Okay, there was part of the C over here with the -5. There's part of the C over here with the -14. Put those C's together. So that means we have x squared plus 16x is equal to what? Hopefully you guys are saying 9. We're saying 9. Thank you. Zone of friendship. I haven't seen you in a minute. How are you? All right. Well, hello. Everyone's coming out tonight. Good job. All right. Good. Awesome. Okay. Of course, I didn't leave any space. Hey, of course, I didn't leave any space. Because I'm trying to be extra. So after I do this, this is when I go into my formula for the C. C equals my B over 2A. And I'm going to square it. Okay? My B in this case, my B is my 16. So I have 16 over 2 times my A. My A is the 1. So basically 2 times 1, that gives me 2. Okay? 16 divided by 2, that gives me 8. And I'm going to square it. Are we okay so far? All right, awesome, Daniel. Good. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. Good zone of friendship. All right. Keep this 8 in mind. Okay. That's going to help you out a little bit later. But 8 squared, that's the same as saying 8 times 8, which gives me 64. And this is what you're adding to both sides to complete the square. All right. So what we can do is we're going to add that 64 to the 9. And we could, because I didn't make enough room, add the 64 to the left-hand side. What is the binomial for this left side? Remember, this is your hint. Okay. Isn't that B negative? No, the B's positive. It was a positive 16. There you go. Equal to 0, then use quadratic. Because right now I'm working on completing the square. Someone asked about completing the square, and they need it for their test. So I was like, I'm going to do complete the square. There you go. Hogrod, good. There you go. Daniel, good. All right. So basically, this whole thing can be summarized by whatever we got in between before we squared. And since it was a positive 8, then we got x plus 8. If you want to factor it out, and notice that both parentheses is going to be x plus 8, and then you write it in a single binomial, have fun with that. Okay? I'm always looking for just getting right straight to the answer. All right, so now we got this. This is really the same thing. Yep. Nice, good, got it too. Awesome. All right, so now we got our 9 plus our 64, which gives us our okay. So we got like our 73. I factor. Yes, Jeanette. All right, so we have our 73. So now we want to go and solve. What do we need to do next? Good, Daniel. Do we agree? Do we agree with Big DMC? Sorry. And I didn't mean disrespect. I'm sorry. Here I am. Yes, and 73 is prime. So we have to do the square root of both sides. In order for us to get rid of this square, we have to do its inverse, which is the square root. So now what's left is your x plus 8 equals square root of 73. What's missing? What's missing? There you go, French Island. I knew, I was waiting for you. Not yet. We have to get that plus minus in there. Because remember, we need to represent both solutions. Okay? Once we get that plus minus in there, now we could subtract that 8. And just like everyone mentioned, square root of 73, that's going to be prime z. If you don't believe me, I know, why is everything so dramatic with me? All right, if you don't believe me, here's 73. The only factors of 73 is 1 and 73. Nothing else. And it's yellow. When it's yellow, it's prime. All right, you're probably like, ooh, where'd this book come from? Well, I'll explain in a few minutes. So my final answer, as some of you guys already had written, was -8 plus or minus the square root of 73. Okay. So we're going to add the plus minus while we're putting the square root up. You're welcome. Yeah, because once we configured, we usually put the plus minus here. That's how I was taught. And it just seemed to make sense to me. But if you want to put it up early, you can. All right. Is the absolute value? Okay. So yes. So remember, the square and square roots, they cancel each other out. So when they cancel each other out, it will just draw the x plus 8. Okay? Yep, because it is the absolute value. Yes. Okay. Because you're probably like, what happened to the square? Yeah, that's what happened. Original was x squared minus 16. No, the original was x squared plus 16x. It was like x squared plus 16x minus 14 equals -5. Okay. All right. Okay, we're all still here. Okay. Now, we did them when a was equal to 1. Let's do it when our a is not equal to 1. And we're not going to make it too crazy. I know some people are like, yes, let's do it. Let's put some fractions in there. And most of us are probably like, no. So I'm going to keep it as simple as I can possible. Yeah. What happened to the plus 16 and the 64? We factored it. Let me put it over here for a second. One moment, everyone. So there was a x squared plus 16x plus 64. If we wanted to factor it, we can split our x's. Two numbers multiplied together to give me a 64 and add together to give me 16 are both 8. Because 8 times 8 gives me 64, and 8 plus 8 gives me 16. So, since both of my factors are exactly the same, I could simply just say it's going to be x plus 8 squared. That's where that came from. Okay, got it? Okay. Yeah, so instead of doing all of this, if you notice, it was a plus 8. But when we were finding the c, before we did the last part, which was squaring that 8 to get our 64, this number is always in the same spot as our binomial. So that's what we did. We just went for a shortcut. Okay, so if we see for the first one that we did, we worked on getting the c. Just before we squared it, we got a 5. Although we did the factoring, guess what? We got a 5. For this one, we found the c, it was a -3. So once we go with the factoring, guess what? We got a -3. Okay? All right. All right. So now, what do you think would be our very first step for this new problem, which is 2x squared minus 14x plus 12 equals 0? Okay. What do you think will be the very first thing I should do? Okay, subtract 12. True. Something will be happening. Minus 12. True. Subtract 12. Okay. But what's different with this one than the other 3 examples that we just did? So we got factor. I demand it. Oh, zone of friendship. You might want to bring that back. You want to try that again, zone of friendship? All right, you can factor that one. Yes, because we got multiples of 2. So we do have, we do have a GCF. I got you. Okay. All right, so what we can do, you demand it, please. All right. When you're doing your completing the square, you don't want to have your leading coefficient to be 1, and you don't want to have it with your c. You want to have it equal your c. So why not, right off the bat, let's divide everything by that leading coefficient, which is 2. The leading coefficient is the one with the highest exponent. So when we do that, now we will have an x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. And you're probably saying, well, Audrey, we didn't do that before. Of course we didn't, because it already had, my leading coefficient was already 1. What's different was we got to get rid of that leading coefficient. Okay? So in order for us to do this, we need to divide everything by whatever that leading coefficient is. So now from here, what are we going to do next? Yes. Now we're going to subtract. There you go. Thank you. Now we're going to subtract 6 on both sides. I know we all love the quadratic formula, but sometimes we have some people, they're saying, especially if they're taking a final. Now, if you have a choice, if you're taking a test, you got a choice. Do what you want to do. If you feel comfortable with quadratic formula, do the quadratic formula. If you feel comfortable with just factoring, do what's factoring, okay? If they give you that choice, take it. And especially if it's a multiple choice question, we do not have time to dibble or dabble, all right? So now we have our 0 minus 6. That means we have a negative 6 over here. So now let's complete our square. So this is when we come over here and we use that formula, C equals our B over 2A squared. Hold on for a second. I want to make sure that I'm not just sitting here idling. I don't know who to blame for that, but I have a feeling it was like the people that were just coming on TikTok. Remember the people used to just come on a live and sleep? Remember that? Like, really? I'm watching you sleep? Okay. All right. So our B is always the number with its sign in front of the X. Our A is always what's in front of, plus the sign, what's in front of the X squared. So we're going to have negative 7 over 2 times 1, which is 2. You're like, oh no, there's a fraction. It's okay, because it's going to pan out. So now we got to square that. Okay. Now we're going to square that. There we go. So negative 7 squared, that's negative 7 times negative 7. That gives me 49. Breathe. I know there's a fraction. It's okay. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which gives me 4. So this is what we're going to use to complete our square. So we're going to add 49/4 on this side. And we're going to add 49/4 on this side. And you're probably saying, Audrey, how am I going to factor all of this? And breathe. That's why I like to show you that little shortcut. So let's hold off on the right-hand side and focus on this side. So instead of you trying to factor out with 2 parentheses, remember, it's always going to be the number before you squared. Right? So we're coming in. So right here, it's going to be X. And since it's a negative 7/2, right, minus 7/2. You see how now knowing that little bit of information can help save you so much time and headaches? Trust. Okay? How are we feeling? Hey, this is how it is. This is how it is. Okay? So it's not so much to be more efficient, because there's multiple ways. Okay? There's multiple ways of factoring, because sometimes we can just pull out the greatest common factor, and then, okay, if you pulled out the 2, then you're saying, oh, okay, well, I can use what? -1 and -6, right? Because -1 and -6, that will work well with my -7. Awesome, right? But certain situations will call you to do certain things. And I'm just showing you every way possible. All right? So you don't feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay? Relax. Breathe. So now, all my GED, all my ACCUPLACER, all my people that are just beginning with algebra and working with basic arithmetic, we need to practice on this. Fractions. Okay? We have a whole number being added to a fraction. Okay? It's a lot, and that's fine. You don't have to take it all in. Okay? We're just doing a little sample. Okay? You don't have to take it all in. But this part, we definitely need to get. Every single one of us definitely needs to get this. So, in order for us to add a whole number with a fraction, we need what? What is it that we need when we're dealing with fractions? You can put it in the chat. What exactly what we need when we're dealing with fractions? Okay. The DC common denominator. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, the same bottom, zone friends. Okay, the common denominator. Yes, Nurse Green. Okay, we need a common denominator. Good, Pog. All right, Jeanette. Awesome. Common denominator. So, anytime we have, and both of them need to be fractions. Thank you. So, is that Piercy? In order for us to do anything, we need to change this whole number to a fraction. All we do is just put it over 1. And now we need a common denominator. We need a 4. If you think of it this way, we know that we need a denominator of 4. Okay, because this one originally is going to be a 1. So, let's think. What divided by 4 will give me a -6? Okay, let's change that whole number of -6 to a fraction. I know, it's all fancy. All right, Ashley, good. Jeanette, good. Okay, French Islands, good. Daniel, good. Okay, don't forget about the signage cat. Good. Okay, so this gives me a -24. Over here, we're going to keep that 49. Okay, because it already has that common denominator of 4. So, what do we get when we combine those two? What over 4? Good zone friendship. Okay, I see what you're doing, power positivity. Okay, so careful, Daniel. Okay, you got it now. Good. Okay, French Isles, good. Jeanette, good. Zelda, good. Okay, mi gente, good. Cat, good. Hey, here's my thing, Zone. You didn't have to stay. No one said, you gotta stay here. We did not say any of that. You chose to stay on. Okay? All right. Now, don't change it into a mixed number. Not just yet, Donna. Someone else did that too. Not just yet. Okay? Not just yet. All right? So this is what we're going to do next. Let me zoom out or zoom in a little bit. Because we still have to solve for x. All right? That's great if they just gave us that and you need to do that, fine. Every time you solve, take a look at your answer choices. Okay, that's major thing. Because sometimes a lot of us will take that next step like, oh, let me change this improper fraction to a mixed number. And then when you look at your answer choices, it was already a mixed number. I mean, it was already an improper fraction. And you didn't have to do that extra step. Okay, once you solve, take a look at your answer choices. If you got to take it the next step, take it the next step. Because remember, these tests are being timed. You don't want to waste too much time. All right, so speaking of which, now let us, where's my pen? Here we go. Okay, so now we have x minus 7/2 squared is going to equal 25/4. And I told you, don't touch it. I know you're like, oh, we got to turn it into a mix. Stop it. Okay? The reason why, what do I need to do in order to get rid of the square? Okay? I'm helping by being awesome. There you go. Yes, we got to do the square root. Oh, now the square root. Yes. Okay, in order for us to get rid of the square, we need that square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So the square and the square root, boom, cancels out. So that's going to leave me with x minus 7/2 equals plus minus the square root of 25/4. What do you notice about this 25/4? Pog, yes. Good. We got 2 perfect squares. Yes. Good. 5/2, 5/2. That's it. Because the square root of 25, that gives me 5. The square root of 4, that's a perfect square. That gives me 2. That's where they're coming up with that 5/2. Okay? So much easier sometimes. You don't just go ahead and do all this extra stuff. So now what's next? We need to add that 7/2 on both sides. So we have x is equal to 7/2 plus or minus our 5/2. And you're probably like, well, Audrey, okay, we got 2 whole numbers this time, so we don't have any radicals. Exactly. So let's put them in their 2 separate equations. So one side is going to be 7/2 plus 5/2. And the other equation is going to be 7/2 minus 5/2. They both have a common denominator. Okay, once I get it into that square root mode on both sides, that's when you're using your plus minus. Okay, Ashley? Yep, when you take the square root of the variable being squared. Look at you being all fancy. So when you do the square root, you have a plus and minus to cancel the square. So when you do the square root, you have a plus minus to cancel the square. So when we took the square root of this is the same as saying square root of 25 divided by the square root of 4. And since they're both perfect squares, that's what got them out of the square root. I learned it from you. Okay. Let's try All right. So, I want to say Nango Balo. So we got our answers here because 7 plus 5, that gives me my 12 over 2. And 12 over 2 will give me 6. Then over here, 7 minus 5, that gives me a 2. And 2 divided by 2, that gives me 1. So, like our x-intercepts, our roots, should put that in green, but here we go, is going to be at 6, positive 6, and at positive 1. Yeah, Crystal, no. Yippee! All right, so I know, it's like every time I come on here, everybody's like, why don't we do some calculus? Like, no. I'm trying to inspire some other tutors to come in here and do some calculus and let them join in on the fun called TikTok. You know, all the little titty TikToks. Okay. All right, so for the person that asked for completing the square, I think it was Pog. I think it was you. It wasn't Michael. I haven't seen Michael in a minute. Ooh, right? Yes. All right, good. Not a problem. Not a problem. So if you like this, okay, even if you like my book and you're probably like, yo, where did all that craziness come from at the end? All right. I actually designed this book for students looking at grade 7 up to adults because I got sick and tired of my students not having any notes. What's up with that, people? And I think it all started when people were just like, oh, let me just give you copies of my teacher's notes. And then the kids just don't do anything with them. Okay, so good. I'm glad you enjoyed this. So it's anything, it's all 100 pages of notes, notebook space. Try to give my formula section and also my steps. And then some room for us to actually do some problems so you can use that as a reference. So in addition to this, I have, as you guys saw, the factor sheets. So factor sheets help for breaking down radicals, dealing with fractions, because I'm going to tell you people, our kids do not know their multiplication table, and they do not know how to read the multiplication table on the back of the composition book. The struggle is real. All right. So, and I go not only from 1 to 100, I go up to 1 to 200. So we can get a lot more of the range. And if you have anyone that gets some trouble with word problems and they don't know what operation goes with what words, these are the most popular words that are used in most word problems. And you guys, for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, equals, and inequalities, they always mix up, like say, less than with is less than. There are so many times I'll see an inequality sign where it's supposed to be just a minus sign. The struggle is real, okay? As opposed to the rules of integers, adding with examples, subtracting with examples, and multiplying and dividing. So in addition to that, we have the orders of operations, properties of exponents. Then we looked at the linear and the quadratic equations. This looks familiar. All right, so I know, and there's your favorite. Everyone kept talking about it today. Why don't we just use the quadratic formula? When they give you choice, take it, okay? Then we have our properties of quadrilaterals, the properties of transformations, area and perimeter, looking at the area of the sector and arc length, as well as volume and surface area. And then the unit circle for my Algebra 2 up to pre-calc kids. They've been doing a little bit more introduction. Some people actually have a trig course, but sometimes they add trig inside of geometry, as in addition to the Pythagorean theorem and also SOHCAHTOA and some of the identities. This is going to be mostly used for either trig or pre-calc, okay? So I tried to get like a different range of it, and then also I tried to add in a little bit of a brain break, but overall, that's what it is. And there are like 3 different covers. of which, oops. Okay, so we have this cover, we have this cover, and we have this cover. All right, so same concepts. These are the ones that are already completed. If by chance you want copies of my notes, I am selling them. They're called Audrey's Notes. So what I did extra to these is, so Audrey's Notes, almost out. So you get an actual copy of my notes from book 1, book 2, and book 3. But if you notice, each of them has a QR code. Now, this QR code will take you directly to the live that is connected to these notes. So if you want to say, oh, translating phrases, all you have to do is scan the QR code and then boom, it takes you right to it. And then you can just follow along. Okay, so it's almost like you're having me doing the lesson for you. All right, so all of that is situated in there. And all of that you can find on my website, ACG Math Tutoring. It's all there. And I mentioned earlier that if, you would like to see the replays of my lives, all of my lives since February the 5th, that's how long I've been doing these lives in particular, are all on my YouTube channel. So if you go to Audrey Codner ACG Math Tutoring, you can see all my lives that are right there. Okay, everything is all situated there, and it's uncut. It's all there. I go live basically on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Thursday at 9:30 p.m., and then at 1 p.m. on Fridays. So if you are looking for a tutor, if your kid is still in class and they're struggling and we just want to get that last bit of hope, you can hire me for a math tutor if you wish. These math book notebooks, I am almost done with getting my math notebooks on self-publishing. But if you need assistance with your GED, ASVAB, even algebra, if you have a child that's going to be graduating 8th grade and they're going into 9th grade algebra and you know they're going to struggle, why not? Let's see if we can do a little bit of prep stuff before they start off again. It doesn't have to be the whole summer. It could be like close to the end, like after the 4th of July. Hey, give them a little break with the summer. But, give them like an hour and a half, or just give them an hour so they can get away from the kitchen just for 5 seconds. Trust me, you're going to know what it feels like as soon as school ends. You're like, I could have sworn I just bought juice. Where did the juice go? It'll be all completely gone. How many hours a day do you tutor? Right now, because it's really busy around this time of year, I'm looking at 7, but it's starting to slow down because a lot of my seniors are getting themselves ready for their final exams. So soon that's going to drop down to like 3 or 4, and that's going to be wonderful. Just for a moment. It usually gets crazy around this time. Right. I think that's what it is when it comes to like a lot of the formulas. Sometimes it's like if you can get the basics of it, you'll be perfectly fine with it. You can apply it to so many different things. Now, here is a list of people that I try to celebrate people as much as I can. If you're thinking about being a nurse and you need help with your dosage calculations, if you follow a blessed RN, she's really good. She has this tactic. It's like almost like puzzle pieces for you to put it together. She's really good with that. If you're looking for getting help with your TEAS test, your ASVAB, your GED, hey, I only go on once a day, but there's other people that you can get some resources. Impact Math 19, she's awesome. So she'll take like some of the old exams and maybe some of the practice tests and add on, very similar. If you're looking for a chemistry tutor, Professor TK, she goes live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And once in a while, she'll go on in the evening, sometimes like tonight, maybe. And if you want to learn how to add, subtract, multiply, or divide using the abacus, hey, remember that? Okay. My friend Lynette, she is turning things completely around, making it modernized and fun and interactive. Definitely go follow her. If you want something fun for your kids for like this summer, she's thinking about doing something, but for the most part, even if you just go to her live, she's almost live like twice a day. So you can definitely check her out. And then also my friend Nancy, she is a tutor. And if you're thinking about like homeschooling your little kids like next year for pre-K or kindergarten, definitely check her out for her homeschool curriculum. And also she does tutoring for little ones for reading and math. And I know this summer she's doing like a math lab. So definitely check her out. So usually when I see great people, I try to share the wealth because I know we all can use a little help with something. We just want a win. You ever just get to that point? Yeah, the abacus, that has been around for centuries. You should check it out. Like, even if you just stay and just watch and just try to figure out, it really stimulates the mind. It really does. Definitely. Yes. I never knew that was the name of an abacus. Yep. It's so funny that we have video games that uses the abacus. We have people are like putting like puns in movies, and even like some of the apps, they actually have all this stuff and no one really knew what an abacus was. Like, this is what we used to use. Well, I didn't, like many centuries ago. And this was our means of keeping track of like livestock and keeping track of money. And this is what they used before calculators. I know, right? There was life before calculators, you know? Everyone had the acoustic guitar. We didn't get involved with electric just yet. Okay. All right. Do I tutor for the ASVAB? Yes, I do. Yes, I actually had 3 people last week. All of them were first-time test takers, and they did more than what they wanted for their individual goals. So I was really stoked about that. Yes. Oh, thank you. Angry? I don't know why you're angry, football. All right. So if you have any questions, all right, not a problem. If you have any questions whatsoever, you're looking for an ASVAB tutor because I don't have much time. Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, you are? Yeah. Girl, please. Yes. Let me know. Pass it on. Pass the information on. Because I'm on Monday, I'm actually going to go to one of my local recruiting office and tell them right from the beginning, I'm not coming in to sign up. Coming in to help you guys out. So, yeah, definitely pass that on. Yes, please do. Thank you. All right. And if anything, yes. That's why I love French Island. I love that. Yes, 75-year young. Yes. Just think about it. Girl, you're seasoned. You've been around. You've seen some things. It does not mean that you have to be put on the shelf. That's what I'm loving. All right. So, if there's any questions that you guys have, any questions whatsoever, go ahead and put it out there. If you have a question and it pops in your head later on, do so. Okay. So again, all of these, I got them. Well, book 4 I haven't put in yet because we just got started on book 4. But if you have any questions, if you're thinking about testing, I'm also going to be starting a course, and I'm not sure if it's going to be on TikTok or if I'm going to put it through privately on Zoom, because I really want you guys to focus. For people that are thinking about going to the community college and they haven't been in school for a long time, or if you just want to do some math work and you're like, I haven't really worked with fractions in a while. So if that one problem that we did with the fraction work that we did right here, if that was troublesome and you're like, you know what, I wish someone could break that down to me step by step, be on the lookout, because that's one of the things I'm planning on doing. I'm thinking about like a good 8 weeks, meaning like twice a week, and giving you small amounts of homework, because you're going to have to. Just get a little bit of practice in and just get you ready for the fall. And if you want to go to community college, see if you can take the ACCUPLACER and see if you can surpass some of those basic courses to move you up. So if that sounds like something that you want to get yourself into, or maybe you're just like, look, Audrey, I'm not looking for a degree. I just want to like sharpen my math skills. You know, go ahead, DM me. Just say, yes, me. I want to join that class. Let me know when the class is coming up. And I'm thinking of like mid-June. At first I was thinking about June 1st, but then I'm like, there's a lot of graduations going on, and I know a lot of people won't be able to attend. There are going to be replays, but I really want you to attend it. I really want you to get the assistance that you need. So I'm thinking like mid-June starting up, and try to do maybe one session for the week of the 4th of July. And then I know the week before the students go back to school, you're going to need to spend time to get things ready. So that's why I got all the replays and all that. But that's what I'm thinking about doing. All right, thanks. Do you have a website I can purchase the math book? Yes. If you go to my profile, there should be an ACG Math Tutoring. If you click on that, you can go to the Ultimate Math Notebook. Okay, you'll see the Ultimate Math Notebook. It'll take you to Amazon. If you're like, I don't want to mess with Amazon anymore because of whatever your preference, I am working on my self-publishing. I am just a couple steps away from getting it all done because Amazon was taking a long time to get my other books situated. So, but you can go there to get that. Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you. I know I appreciate that. You know, because sometimes, stuff gets exciting. All right. So, if there's any more questions, I'm going to kind of wrap up a little bit. I think I might bring back to some of the GED and the TEAS tests. I'm going to take a look at some of those things so I can help out a little bit. But again, you can go to my YouTube channel, take a look, look at some of the shorts, take a look at some of the lives, whatever. And if you have a kid that is taking like any of those Algebra 1 courses or even Algebra 2 courses and they need assistance with stuff, have them use the videos. Or if you know somebody that wants to take a course but you want it more self-paced, I got courses as well, for the GED, the ACCUPLACER, and also to revisit algebra components. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming in. Thank you for chiming in, and I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, p.m., not a.m., p.m. All right. Have a lovely day, afternoon, evening, and if you have questions, do not hesitate to message me. All right, guys, take care. Bye now.